Hi, this is Katie Armstrong, licensed immigration advisor and principal at IntoNZ, recording this on Friday, the 7th of March. Why today? Well, because on Monday we've got a bunch of changes yet again in the immigration space, and I wanted to try to simplify those for you. Why have we got them? Well, remember in 2022, when they opened the accredited employer scheme, it was pretty much Wild West. Immigration, to get it up and running, really couldn't keep a control on it. So there were lots of things that weren't being checked. The settings were all wrong. Then last year, April, they tightened it all up. The pendulum swung the other way. And Monday represents an easing off of the brake pedal. Now, to take you through these changes, I've actually coded the slides to relaxed, tougher, new, or unchanged. You're going to mostly see relaxations going on, so it's good news for employers, good news for migrant workers, but important to understand what's really going on. Okay. No. Hi, this is Katie Armstrong, licensed immigration advisor and principal at IntoNZ. This is Friday, the 7th of March, and the reason for recording this today is because on Monday we've got a bunch of new changes coming into force in the accredited employer work visa scheme. So this is for employers and also migrant workers. You may all be feeling dizzy with the number of changes going on at the moment. So here at IntoNZ, we've got your back. I've prepared this deck to show you what's been going on from the beginning of the year to bring you up to date, to signal the most important things. I've coded things to either relaxed, tougher, new, or unchanged. What you're going to see is mostly relaxations, which is great news for everyone. Just to give it context, back in 2022, when they opened the employer accredited scheme, remember it was post-COVID, new systems, new policy, huge pressure, and immigration effectively took the goalies out of the box, didn't check things, the settings were kind of mad. It led to huge problems, lots of exploitation, lots of selling of jobs. So last April, the minister went and tightened everything, swung the pendulum fully in the opposite direction. And now what's happening as from Monday, it represents the lifting of the foot off the brake and getting us back into some kind of happy medium. So lots of good news in here, but let's crack into it and see what's been going on. So I'm just going to move myself. Back on 27th of January, we already had certain changes to things. The big one was the removal of employment modules. Remember, accredited employers and their workers were supposed to complete these modules within a certain time frame. That's all gone. Now it's just a link to employment rights on a work visa, end of. The second change back on January, well, it impacts a pretty small number of accredited employers, so I'll be really brief. It affects the triangular employers only in the construction sector, and it was a relaxation saying instead of having to have 30% of staff as you know being Kiwis, now it could just be back to 15%. I'm going to skip on. The big thing in January, not to do with accredited employer work visas, but nonetheless an important change, was this announcement of digital nomad working rights. I'll be brief. It's basically just a change in the conditions for visitors. Visitors can now, for up to 9 months, work remotely. It kind of brings us into the 21st century and validates what people would have been doing all along when opening their laptop whilst here on a visit. From the 28th of February, just gone, we had a change, which may have gone unnoticed by some, but that was for accredited employer work visa holders who wanted to support a partner. Gosh, that's gone through some changes, but from February 28th, it was possible to support a partner as long as you were in a skill level 1 to 3 job, and as long as you were earning 25.29 an hour. Back in December, that went to 26.85 an hour from February 28th. So just to be really clear, if you're on accredited employer work visa, you want to support your partner, you have to be in a skill level 1 to 3 job earning 26.85, or you could be in a skill level 4-5 role or green list, but you'd have to meet new wage thresholds there. So 33.56 if you're green list, 50.34 if you're in a level 4 to 5 role. That's for partners. We'll see more about children. Separate rules for supporting partners, separate rules for supporting children. Now, let's move on. Starting Monday, here we go. This is the big stuff. The biggest thing probably of all is the removal of the median wage requirement. Now, the median wage was used in 2022 as a proxy for skills. In other words, it was all about the wage. It wasn't about the skill level. Now they're flipping it to being much more about skill level and being about market rate. What is market rate? Well, yesterday, Immigration New Zealand held a webinar for advisors. There were 70 odd questions in that webinar, by the way, which shows how complicated it can be. But on market rate, what immigration said is they will use a range of materials to try to figure out what the market rate actually is. Those of us who are very experienced know that they're always going to look at places like careers.gov.nz, available website information. You can Google what is the market rate for a particular job, and up will come resources. There are also industry-specific surveys, Restaurant Association, Hospitality New Zealand. They'll have their usually annual surveys to find out what's being paid. And as long as you're in with that, that's market rate. That is the market rate. What they don't want is for people to be below the market rate. Now, what's going to be interesting from now on is that we're going to end up with people who are on visas for the same job, potentially earning more than someone new coming in. Well, hey ho, that's life. What we had with this wage proxy before, which a lot of employers complained about, was that they'd have a particular business and they were having to pay more for migrants than for Kiwi counterparts. So it's already been a very artificially adjusted market for some time. We're going to continue to see weirdness around this. But anyway, the point being, from now on, you just have to pay the market rate, not some other artificially imposed rate. If you had a job check done as an employer at the median wage, you will now be able to offer out the job at market rate. So it could be lower as long as you can justify the new wage. Interesting times. Now, next big relaxation is they've decided that instead of insisting on all workers having at least 3 years of experience, they can reduce that to 2. This is because there's a lot of workers in the country who've been working now for 2 years, who came into the country without prior experience, and the employers don't want to lose them, and they were facing losing them just over this issue of not having 3 years of experience. So they're relaxing that to 2 years. Please note, we get asked this all the time. Does my employee still have to do an English test? Well, yes, if they are skill level 4-5, they still have to do an English test. The minimum skills test is not about the English test. It's just about the amount of work experience or qualifications. So reduction is only in the amount of experience. Another relaxation here that's really important is that we were giving out only 2-year work visas to those skill level 4-5 roles unless they were paid 1.5 median or unless they were green list. From now on, they're going to be giving 3 years instead of 2. It still doesn't, I mean, the maximum time someone can stay in New Zealand in a skill level 4-5 job unless they're paid 1.5 or meeting green list is still 3 years. But what was happening before is these workers were going to have to go for 2 years and then extend and pay again for a 3rd year. For new people now, that's going to no longer be the case. So that's a significant relaxation. Also from Monday, what they're saying is you no longer have to necessarily provide information that you have, or, you know, documentation, sorry, that you've worked with MSD to try to fill a skill level 4-5 role. Instead, you can just declare, I have engaged. Now, what does this all mean? Well, obviously, they're trying to streamline things and not force Work and Income to give out what these engagement reports. There's going to be no more engagement reports. But does it mean you don't have to go to Work and Income? No, you still have to go to Work and Income. You still have to declare that you've properly engaged. You still will need to keep your records for at least the duration of your accreditation period. And Immigration has said just yesterday they may well be doing spot checks. They also, if they have any adverse information that a particular employer may not be someone that engages with Work and Income in good faith, they will ask for the evidence. Now, what is good faith engagement? Well, the process for listing a job will remain the same. You will be expected to list your 4-5 job with Work and Income, but it's not for a specific period. It was 21 days. It will just be a reasonable period during which you need to consider and interview any suitable applicants. So it is a relaxation, but it's not alleviating you from dealing with Work and Income. Look, the overall, you know, desire here is to make sure that suitable unemployed Kiwis do get a look in on these jobs. If you're not prepared to give a look in, you can expect to perhaps lose your accreditation if you falsely say that you have engaged. That message is very, very clear. Now, I said before, you know, we've had some increase to the thresholds and the rules around supporting partners. We have a whole separate set of rules about supporting dependent children when you're on a work visa, accredited employer work visa. Sorry, let me move myself so you can see here. This is getting tougher, quite significantly tougher. So we've already had a recent increase in the threshold of money that you have to be earning to support children. It had gone to 43,322.76. Now from Monday, it's going to be even more. It's going to be 55,844. That's a big increase on what we've had, and it's going to cause issues. Now, really an important thing to understand, both as an employer or as an employee, is that it is the guaranteed hours in your contract that counts. Immigration answered this clearly yesterday. It's not about what you may have actually earned, because there are a lot of people who are on, for example, minimum 30-hour contracts, but the employer pays them regularly for 40 or more. Well, Immigration's not going to look at the 40, it's going to look at the 30. And have a look at my slide. If you're only paid, if your contract says 30 hours, then your hourly rate would have to be 35.80. Whereas if you're on a 40-hour week, it only has to be 26.85. Now, the one exception to this whole new rule is if before the change, your children were already here and on dependent visas, it will be the old threshold that applies. So that's a sort of grandparenting rule. Please be very careful. Seek advice on this point if you're not sure whether you can support children. And for employers, think carefully about the hours that you put in the contract. If you really are able to give the person the 35, 37, 30 or 40 hours that they need to be able to get their children in, then do that. Don't just put in 30 hours unnecessarily, because it will impact. Moving on, this is huge news for lots of people. From Monday, there are going to be, you'll see 3 columns here. So left-hand column, these are new jobs that are going to be recognized at skill level 3 rather than at a lower skill level 4. So this is brand new. Just to give you a bit of the background, we all currently use the ANSCO. The ANSCO is the job classification for Australia and New Zealand. Well, actually, we're going to be transitioning to something called the NOL, the New Zealand Occupational List. That list already exists, but immigration rules haven't fully incorporated it yet. It's coming. But in the meantime, what they've done is they've said, okay, these are some new roles that are now a level 3 in the NOL, and we are adopting those roles, and they're going to put them in a new Appendix 7. In the middle, there's a bunch of other roles where the NOL doesn't necessarily recognize them at a higher level, but they've decided they're going to put them on a list anyway to recognize them at a higher level, provided the job check asks for at least 3 years of experience, or if there exists one, a relevant 4 qualification. Now, these will be in Appendix 7. I can only stress that this appendix does not, and I repeat, it does not impact the skilled migrant category. So you might be recognized as skill level 3 for your work visa purposes. And why is that important? Well, you're going to get longer visas. You may be able to support your partner because of it, but it's not yet saying, oh, well, that's good for residents. No. Be very careful, because I've seen misinformation out there, misunderstandings out there. This is just about work visas for the present purposes. Now, on the right-hand side, and this is not changed, there are also these roles here, aged or disabled carer, down to bicycle mechanic, where if in the job check, the employer insists on 3 years of experience or a relevant level 4 qualification, they can also be recognized at a skill level 3. That's also possible in the resident space, by the way, but if indeed that's what the ANSCO says. Probably confusing. Seek advice. Let's go to the next part. So, I'll move myself here. This is big. I've put this as a mega relaxation. It is. It's huge. From Monday, a whole lot of people and a whole lot of employers are not going to have to get a new job check in order to extend their visa. This is all about visa extensions. Now, I won't go into the old rule. The old rule was really complicated, and it was nick. If you met this and this and this and this. Now, simple. If you had either got your accredited employer work visa or applied for it before 10th of March, you're going to be able to reuse your same job check if you need to extend your visa to get the balance of what you're allowed, either the 3 years or the 5 years maximum continuous stay. Now, there's just 11 roles that they've picked out where that's not possible. And even in those roles, it is possible, provided you were paid $29.66 an hour when you got your visa. So this is huge. Lots and lots of job checks that were going to have to be done are no longer going to have to be done. It's pretty major. So let's take an example of a housekeeper in a hotel who had a 2-year visa, applied for before 10 March. Now to get the extra 1-year visa, boom, reuse of job check. Same old job check that was used before. If you went through a variation of conditions somewhere along the line, well, it will be the variation of conditions job check number. The employer can go in, reissue the job check that they gave you. You can then, reissue the token. You can then apply for your new balance. Major news. So much so that we had to go back to immigration to say, are we really reading this right? Because this is big. Now here quickly, still to come. This is actually after Monday. So we've done the Monday changes. After Monday in April at some point, date to be confirmed, yet another relaxation is coming. This is important. What it's saying is, let's say you have a worker or you are a worker and you're applying for an accredited employer work visa to start in a new job. You've been on maybe a study visa or a postgraduate visa or a partner visa. Now, normally you would get interim working rights if that old visa is running out. It's only if it's running out. And that interim visa would put you as a visitor, unable to start your job with your accredited employer until your new visa is approved. But this is saying, actually, on your interim visa, once that kicks in, you'll be able to start in the new job with the accredited employer, even though we haven't given you your accredited employer work visa yet. Now, I do see some issues with this. I mean, does an employer really want to start you into a job before you've got your accredited employer work visa? Well, that's for the employer to decide. I mean, it's only a risk if you are not going to be approved your accredited employer work visa. This is a conversation that we can have if you're an employer. Is it a good idea to start that person or not? But at least the option is there. It wasn't there before. The only thing to watch out for is that any time spent working on that interim visa for the accredited employer is going to actually ultimately count in the reckoning when it comes to maximum continuous stay. Now, I'm done with all the changes. I'm just going to finish up on some quick statistics to give you a little bit of context. I'll move myself up here. I just thought this might be interesting to some. Currently, we've got 25,887 accredited employers. That is well down from the 30-something pluses that we had at the peak, but there are employers who've either been struck off or have not reapplied. And so that's where it's settled, 25,887. Total number of AEWVs approved since 2022 when it all began, 141,000. Honestly, it's really tailed off, you know, huge numbers in 2022 and 2023. It started to tumble after the tightenings last year, and I'll show you how much it's tumbled. So the number of AEWVs just last month was only 689. Huge reduction on 2023. So just 2 years back, it was 9,366. Now it's down to 689. Last month wasn't actually the lowest it's been. That was last October when we only had 452 lodged. But yeah, really off the cliff. Onshore applications are more. You know, we've got a lot of people onshore milling around, applying to extend their visas or for new visas. So in February, as opposed to the 689 offshore lodged, it was 1,538 here in New Zealand. I'll just take you to the residence numbers if you want some perspective on that. Let's have a quick squiz at those. So this takes us from 1st of July last year to 28th February this year. So it's not a full year. The immigration year goes from July to July. It doesn't go from January to December or March to April or whatever. It's July to February now, so a part year. We've had green list work to residents, only 196 approved. Transport sector, that's your bus drivers and your truck drivers, 102. Care workforce 265. Skilled migrants, 6 points category, 1169 approved. It's so tiny compared with what it used to be. And a whopping 158 declined. I mean, I think that's a lot. That's a significant decline rate, especially when supposedly this was all about simplification, making it so much easier. And to be frank, we ain't seen anything yet, because the 6 pointers who've been applying to date were pretty much the easy ones, the ones that aren't relying on a lot of work experience claims. I foresee the numbers going up, the numbers both applying and the numbers declined. Straight to residents, that's your tier 1 green lists, your nurses, doctors, engineers, etc. That's 4,452 approved. You can see that green list tier 1 is now the dominant category. The total this year of residents skilled categories, 6,184. It's significantly low. So I will leave you also with the thought that we are going to see changes coming to the skilled migrant category. Last October, the minister is reported publicly saying she recognized that the trades had lost out when they changed the point system. There are very few trades on the green list, and we have in the country a whole loads of tradesies that are just missing out on residents, all nervously waiting for news. So we are all in a heightened state of expectancy around what might happen there. But with these numbers of residents low, albeit that obviously there are a lot of people currently working their way towards having enough points to be able to qualify, so the numbers will be going up, there is still a significant pressure on the government to offer something to the trade. So fingers crossed on that. For the moment, that's me. Over and out. If you have any questions whatsoever, remember, the team at Into-NZ, we've got your backs. Employers, employees, we are always available. We pride ourselves on being as receptive to emails, WhatsApp messages, text messages, you name it. We really work hard to help cut through all the materials that we've been given and provide you with clear-cut advice and solutions wherever possible. So have a very good weekend, and Monday is the dawning of a whole new era for AEWVs.